I'm Chad Brock.
And I'm Zach Bailiff.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Orion Podcast.
The button's back.
The button is back after a long 2 weeks away. Welcome back, everybody, to the Orion Podcast. We're your hosts, Chad Brock, Zach Bailiff.
Yeah, we're here.
We're here, straight out of Lake Chickamauga. Been in Chickamauga all week, last week, and I like that place. I'm going back.
Yeah, it looked like a good time. I'm ready to go. I gotta
if we can
dust off the rods and re-spool them and get back down there.
If we can catch a couple big old thunders chunkies like we did last week, I'm telling you, I'll live there. I'll move.
Yeah,
I will.
It sounded like you guys figured something out after a few days. Anyway, I know the first few days of practice were tough, but
first few days of practice were a little bit rough. But we probably could have used one more day of practice, and then the tournament would have been gold. But
right,
when you're short timing it and your tournament starts on Friday and not Saturday, you kind of scramble a little bit, especially when you get down there late. And we ended up. You would have thought the fish were spawning, but they were actually pulling back out to secondaries in the main lake. So we ended up sitting out on a ledge, throwing the big sea rig, Chatteliner rig. That's what I've renamed it Chatteliner rig. You'll see it later. I've actually got a hybrid edition. You'll like it. It's nice. You don't need no extra knots. It's a thing of beauty. It's a thing of beauty.
Oh man, jerry rigging good time.
Oh man, we boat improvisions. It was beautiful. I taught people new things. It was a good week. Can say they're gonna write a book about me one day. It'll be about 2 pages long.
Yeah.
Second page will be the end. So tonight's guest, a family man, good family man. He is a fishing fanatic of all sorts. I mean, he is. He's not just a bassin man. He's not just a bluegill man. He is a man about fish. He is a DIY expert of sorts. He DIYs. Not just the tackle box. He gets into some other projects. He's a photographer, a really good photographer. He's a YouTube sensation on YouTube. He's a legend of the swamp. Would you all put your hands together tonight for the one, the only, Mr. Chris Funk?
There he is. That's the longest list of redneck accolades I ever heard.
He's froze. We're frozen.
Uh-oh.
Is he muted? I think you're muted.
Technical difficulties on the live podcast.
So we got a few listeners tonight while we're working through the technical difficulties. Miss Jean Wilson's in the house. She's saying, "Hey, Swamp Thing." Aaron Dodds is in the house. He's hey Gene. Jonathan Dennis is saying what's up. So yeah, got a few people in the house.
Oh, I heard volume.
Heard volume. Are you there?
Yeah.
I think we've got an internet glitching.
The one thing I do now,
He's trying.
He's trying.
tell you what, the one thing that I don't do well is computers. Huh? Am I frozen?
You're
getting better all the time.
You're getting better. The signal's coming in.
So glitchy, it ain't even funny.
Well, switch over to your phone. It might work on your phone as well.
Jacked up. My computer has. Yep. I'm unmuted.
I know how it feels. I've been there.
Yeah, he was there. Zach was in our last podcast, and we worked through it.
It's tough, I thought when I moved closer to the big city that I'd have better internet, but
you gotta live in the city.
Apparently,
it's good internet. We have please hold for technical difficulties here on the Orion Podcast. We would like to remind you.
Oh, I'm trying to. I was trying to look at settings. I'm trying.
Okay. We're gonna let Chris hang out right there for just a second. He'll be right back with us tonight.
Hopefully he gets her ironed out.
So big thing on the Orion Podcast is we have the 5-question segment. 5 questions will come to you live right here on the podcast around 8:45ish. And when you get in the comments there, feel free to drop us one, whether you're listening on the YouTube or the Facebook page. Man, we would love to see you guys' comments. Get some comments and questions ready for Chris Funk once we get our technical difficulties sorted out. But yeah, so we've got a new promotion going at Orion Coolers. Some of you can see behind me on this side because everything's opposite. We have the Orion Earth Day Cooler. Something you guys really need to check it out. It's part of our new program, the JK Foundation. It's going to proceeds go. I believe it's $10 from every cooler goes towards rivers cleanup in the state of Tennessee and beyond. So check that out. The Earth Day Cooler. It's a 55 quart. It comes loaded. It's got the rails. It's got the deck pad on top, and it's in the cool Earth color. What a better way to represent Earth 365 days a year than your Orion 55 quart cooler. Thank you. That's one. We paid the bills once.
Yeah,
Orion Podcast.
It's a good looking cooler, man.
It's a good looking cooler. I mean, would you look at it?
Just look at it.
Just look at it. Also, powered by Jackson Kayak. The Orion Podcast is powered by Jackson Kayak, home of the brand new NAR FD and Mark IV FD. Yeah, that's not a boat and a boat. That's a boat and the drive system for the boat. You need to check that out. JacksonKayak.com for all you people out there listening tonight. That's all I got.
Sweet looking boat.
It is a sweet looking boat. We've got promos been going on, and we're stoked about it here at Jackson Kayak. We're excited. Shout out to our previous guest, Canoe Kentucky, for the Splint Cup. Love you guys. Thank you for that. Let's see if Mr. Funk is ready to roll. Are you ready? Can you hear me? We will get there. We will get there.
Yeah. Hopefully it gets her ironed out.
We will get there. We've got let's try something here. We need to check in on a little somebody that we haven't heard from in a hot minute. Let's see what we can do here.
Live improv phone calls on
Live
air.
improv phone calls. We have reached podcast greatness.
We're scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to come up with stuff to do when you're making phone calls.
Let's see here. We're gonna pick up.
Oh man.
It was previous guest. Pick up the phone. This is your time to shine. Why don't you talk to us? It's bad when you call somebody direct.
Your call has been forwarded
on live TV and they don't answer.
You got screened.
I got screened on the show and everything.
Dude. Well, I'm just gonna go start setting up this new bow over here.
Hold on. We're gonna call somebody else.
Hello,
This is Jameson Redding.
this is Jameson Redding.
Jameson, this is the Orion Podcast. You've got Chad and Zach here.
You guys live right now?
We are live right now. Mr. Funk's having some technical difficulties. So we're calling in, checking in with our previous guests, seeing how you guys are doing. We know that you're out on the road, man. Tell us a little bit about where you're at. What's been going on since we had you on the podcast?
Well, we are trying to wrap up the season of shooting for the television show, and we just left Delaware, where we hooked up with Delaware Paddle Sports, one of the Jackson kayak dealers and Orion dealers up there. And we got to hang out with a couple of Matt Campbell and Matt Trucks, and we did a little bit of saltwater fishing and freshwater fishing. And now we're driving to Tennessee to film the last episode with Caney Fork, really close to the factory where the coolers are made.
Right on. So how's the fishing been out on the road for you guys? You guys tearing it up?
Yeah, we did really good, actually. And since we were all last, I believe I went to Oklahoma where we slayed largemouth, spotted bass, and smallmouth. So that was really cool just to get to catch all three species at several different locations. But Delaware was really good. We got into some juvenile size striper, 20-inch to 25-inch striper in some back creeks. Catching those on chatterbaits. It was a lot of fun, swim baits and chatterbaits. And then something that I'd never even heard of, I had to Google it, called a tog, and it's actually spelled like tautog.
Huh.
And it's a fish that kind of lives around rocks and stuff off in the Atlantic there, and they eat crustaceans, crabs. We use sand fleas to fish for them, but they're really delicious eating. A little hard to catch because it was pretty rough conditions as far as a lot of current, that kind of thing. But we caught some and had a nice fish fry. And that was pretty cool to catch a fish that I literally had to Google before. I didn't even know what they looked like, but they had teeth like a sheep's head, if you're familiar with them. And again, live in the rocks. So that was pretty cool to catch a new species.
Well, our boy Dustin Nicholas is shouting out. He's saying, "Man, that's good eating."
Oh, yeah, it was. They were delicious. I mean, we did a little fish fry on the back of the truck tailgate, and made some fish tacos, and got to hang out. So it kind of made a good end to the day. Go out and catch some fish and have fun doing that, and then get to sit around and kind of talk and share the experience. And I'll say we had the new Jackson NARs, and one of the first guys probably to own a NAR outside of the team was there, picked it up at Delaware Paddle Sports, and then went fishing with us. So that was really cool to get to experience that.
So you guys heard that right there. Buy your NAR at your local Jackson kayak dealer, and Jameson Redding will come out, hang out for a day, and fish with you. It's a promotion that we're running from. It's a new promotion. It runs from now till midnight. So be sure to run out there, jump on the Jackson Kayak page, and you guys can go fishing with Jameson Redding.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man, just to share that experience with him. His first couple of trips out in the NAR for sure. And he got into the striper real heavy yesterday, same size, but it got pretty fun there. I lost count of how many we caught, but it was pretty on fire for a few minutes. So
there you go. So Are you guys going to be fishing the Caney Fork River up there with our good friends at Caney Fork?
Yeah, that's the plan. We're going to be doing some striper fishing again, hopefully getting those big landlocked striper. I'm actually on a mission to stop at Bass Pro again here in another 20 minutes or so, because I'm trying to find some bigger baits to throw for those big mamas. And then I'm hoping we get to do some smaller, like creek style fishing, some of the tributaries that flow into it, because I love that kind of stuff. Just getting in some water that's a little harder to reach, a little harder to access, and sometimes you can find some really nice fish in there. And smallmouth bass are like my favorite freshwater species. So I'm really hoping to get in some of that skinny water back creek stuff and find some smallmouth that are hungry.
Right on. Well, we just wanted to call and check in with you, man. Like I said, we was having some internet issues. It looks like we've pretty much about got those fixed. We can see Mr. Funk. He's down there waiting on us. He looks fit to be tied, but that's gonna make for a good conversation. Any strong words of wisdom for Chris Funk before he enters this podcast?
Oh man, well, you know what? Words of wisdom for Chris. I would say just keep it real. Be fun.
Be fun.
Tell him he needs to bring some funkisms. He'll know what I mean. But Chris,
funkism.
And, you guys will appreciate that.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate you talking to us tonight, and we'll check in with you again from the road, man.
Yeah, man. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Jameson.
Have a good one.
Bye. There you guys have it. Improv call to Jameson Redding, because Jason Cassidy, you didn't answer in case you want to know who ditched us.
I figured that's who it was.
First guest ditched us after all we did for him.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome back to the podcast. Let's start this thing up again. The Swamp Legend, Mr. Chris Funk. What's up?
I'm about like a one-legged cat in a litter box over here. I've got two computers. Totally. I just shot a printer like last week because it didn't work. I mean, I literally put that on YouTube. I put number 3 buck through the middle of this stupid printer because it would not work. And I've got two computers that are about to join it into graveyard for computer stuff.
My wife has a printer.
I do not do computer junk, and I've got one that has got electronic constipation, and I have my best to get it done and fixed today. And then my wife brought me hers, and it didn't work right, and the phone didn't want to work right, and I'm like, good, I just can't go. Oh God.
Gene says that's funkism number 1.
Oh my goodness.
I think there was more than one in there, but
yeah, she's already put number 2 up.
And I apologize, because there is nothing in this world that I hate worse than somebody waiting on me. And I could hear you like, I'm trying to speak to you. I can see you. You know, everybody. When my boy was little bitty, I'd say, where's Ethan? He'd be standing right there. I'm like, I don't see him. He's like, I'm right here, Daddy. I'm right here. That was payback for all them times of me doing that.
It's okay. We talked to Jameson and we caught up with him, our guest.
I heard pieces and parts of that. So
we tried to call Jason Cassidy, our first guest that we ever had on our podcast, and he totally ditched us. So I guess you're not in real good company at the end of the day.
It happens. I felt like a fly on the wall during last week's podcast. So
this is just water, but it needs to be much stronger right now.
Well, let's jump into this thing. Let's go podcasting. So tonight you're my guest. You're Zach's guest. We're happy to have you here. We're excited for the conversation ahead. It's already off to an amazing start. But one thing we do on the Orion podcast, as you well know as a listener, we kick this thing off with a little backstory. So let's talk about how the passion for the outdoors bit Chris Funk.
100% my daddy. I got to tell you, man, my daddy, which I lost him when I was 36 to cancer, but Daddy and I, we fished. Of course, Daddy when I started fishing, I was in diapers, and Daddy lost a fishing rod because of me. And later on, the fishing rods got tied to the boat. The youngin didn't get tied to the boat, but the fishing rods got tied to the boat. And I got a picture of me somewhere with one of them old rods tied to the side of that boat fishing in the Chesapeake Bay. But Daddy made, being in the military, he was off and gone a lot, and he made every second count with me on the water. And we would chase. That's the way we are. I am today. Is I'll chase any critter that swims. I'm not you said it early on. I don't qualify as a bass fisherman, man. If it's got fins, I chase it. And me and Daddy he'd pull me out of school. He's like, perfect attendance don't mean nothing. These memories and losing him early, what I consider early on in life. I'm so thankful of the days that I got pulled out to go chase a critter, because those memories made me grow far more than anything I learned in a classroom, other than possibly computer science. But we spent a lot of time chasing critters as we moved from. I don't sound like it, but I was born in Maryland, and from Maryland to Texas to Colorado to Germany, and I mean I've got memories of every state that we've lived in and country we've been in, chasing something with fins on it. And it wasn't until 16, I guess, after we moved second place in Alabama that we started hunting. And I killed my first deer, and then of course it was on. It was any critter that moved after that. But I will always consider the fishing rod to be the thing that I long for the most in life.
Right on. Now
Awesome.
You have carried that on, and it's not just you. You've passed this down to your son as well as your wife.
It kind of came with the getting hitched, and our wedding vows had said something about me being her eternal bait boy. I bait her hooks and take her fish off the hook, but that's my job. But she's come a long way, and it's funny that the lures I buy her, usually there'll be the pink rooster tails, and she will spank your butt with them. I'm talking, she either catches the biggest or the most, or both, but and I try to keep her in matching fishing attire, and the pretty boats and the pretty paddles and the pretty PFDs, because dude, I'm telling you, there is nothing to me, most of the time I fish alone, and I crave solitude, but the fishing with my bride and fishing with my boy are two honest gifts. I spent the morning on the river with Ethan today, and fishing wasn't great, but I wasn't there to catch fish. When he's 25 years old and married now, I'm thankful for every second I get to spend with him. And today was a good day just to be with him.
Absolutely. Now, when you look at these trips, how much does the wife and the boy influence? You may want to go to the swamp, but they may say, dang, we want to go over here.
She tried for 15. It was probably 15 years before I talked her into going to the swamp. And now, when we go to the swamp, we rough it as rough as it gets. I mean, I'm too old to rough too much, but I mean, she's not a tent camper, but Stephen C. Foster has nice cabins. So the first time I took her down there, I took her in the cabin, and I took our little motorboat that I built year before last. And I ran her out in the swamp. Well, then this year I took the take two, and she said, I'll paddle with you. She did not want to go in her own boat. She paddles fine. She does great in her own Liska. But when we're down there, she was not comfortable paddling by herself. But that woman, I'm telling you, she'll rip a lip on a bowfin, and she just enjoys being out. She's not as diehard. I'm a like massive addict. I fish from when I can till I can't. You can ask when Jameson and I, anytime we've been to boondoggles, everybody else is partying and eating and having them a good old time, and me and him are dragging up way after darkness because we have fished till we can't fish no more. I don't go to socialize. I go because I want to fish, and that's the same thing in the swamp. But sharing that experience with her was incredible. Now, Ethan, the last couple of years of chasing his little bride, and he just got married last November. So now I'm hoping that after he's got her, he can love on her, and then there'll be a few days when he can break away and go to the swamp or go to Point Shane with me, because those are those are some of our favorite adventures together as father and son. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the good stuff, when you get to see your kids out there, and all the way from you're always happy. I think, Ethan being 25 and my kids are 23 and 21 now. And, it's still exciting to see them catch a fish, even though it's not the first fish they've caught. You're always happy in a way that they caught it and you didn't. And
I wanted to run the camera. I was hoping, I was like, please. It was funny. His little old stretch of whitewater comes out of the dam up there, and I'm old and I've got, all the gear. It's like, nah, I'll go around. And I looked at him. He's like, I said, were you going to run that? He's like, I was thinking about it. I said, well, let me get to the bottom, get the camera ready. Come on. So I guess he still has enough boy in him that's it's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, you do a lot of photography work. Where'd that come from? What got you started on the photography side?
It's funny. I started shooting and just playing around with, hunting, and all it was hunting and fishing pictures. The Georgia Outdoor News Forum, which was before Facebook, outdoor forums were a big thing. And I had taken a kind of artsy fartsy picture of a dead coyote that I shot, draped out. It was probably the prettiest coyote I ever shot. Silver tips, just beautiful dog. And I had it set up on this rock outcropping, and it was a neat picture, even for me, admittedly. And a buddy of mine, Robert Grigg, the guy that goes to the swamp with me, he's like, you need to put that on the GON. And I put it on there, and it got enough comments. And I don't know whether that kind of just lit the fire, but I always had those pictures of that I took of Daddy, and when we were out fishing and stuff and hunting and all. And after losing him, it just solidified how important a photographer is to capture memories, and I mean, because everybody has stuff. We all have experiences and do fun stuff and see lots of cool stuff, but the person that can capture it and translate it into something to share. And honestly, I mean, we've got people around us that they'd never go eyeball to eyeball with an alligator, or like the snake that I got the other day on the paddle, it would just scare them to death. But to be able to share that, it's honestly kind of a ministry, if you will, that all the things that I'm blessed to experience and be surrounded with, to share that with people that either may never go and do, or that encourages them to go and do. It's kind of awesome. I mean, I get so many people that ask questions about the swamp, how to go, what to do, and to be able to turn around and help out. I mean, I've never been an athlete, so I can't teach you how to hit a ball. I can't teach you, how to run faster. Lord knows, can't do that. But I can show you how to have a good time in the wild, and I can tell you where I've seen things that have changed me for the better, and given me a richer experience in life. And if I could pass that on, man, that's just send it. I'll do it.
Yeah, 100%. I know I've said that, numerous times when we're out on a mountain somewhere that, there's a handful of people that are going to, step foot where we just been or experience the things that we just saw. And, some folks may never even see it.
Well, and one day, you see all this gray, one day that we won't be able to take that step anymore. And if Lord keeps breath in this body, if nothing else, I'll have a whole bunch of YouTube to sit around and watch an old folks home if I keep living.
Take all the pictures you can, because you can't ever go back and do it again.
That's right. And you know what, the last trip in the swamp, it's funny you said that, because I when we went in, I told Robert, I said, look, this time, if it's interesting to me, I'm going to take a picture of it. And I fish so hard down there that a lot of times I come back and like, man, I've got 10 pictures from the whole trip, but I saw all this stuff. So this time I said, every time I passed something that was interesting to me, I'd turn around, I'd go back, and I'd find the right light, or I'd find, the right subject, the angle that I needed to get. But I shot more the last trip that we went down, and it truthfully, opened my eyes, because I said I wanted to approach it like somebody that hadn't seen it before. So if it struck me as interesting, I was going to try my best to record it. And I got some of the best work that I've ever done the last trip we went to the swamp.
And
Yeah, I've been guilty of that myself, just letting, tunnel vision on the hunt or shooting or whatever we're doing get in the way of, clicking the shutter or pressing record, when you need to be doing that too.
And you always regret it. Later on, you're like, dang it, why didn't I just take that? It's kind of like getting B-roll. I know me and Chad have talked about B-roll. It's like, dude, I could have made this better if I would have just, shot that down, but it's so hard to focus. When you're so focused on that goal, it's so hard to see the peripheral.
You can never have enough B-roll.
No, and super guilty of that from my trip from Chickamauga last week. It came Friday, the day of the tournament, and I shut her all down. I said, nope. And I said, I'm going 110. And, now, based on the course of events that I was telling Zach about earlier that happened, it's like, oh, I wish I would have had that going, because it was just unexplainable. I mean, it's just great. And
how many?
And I'm lucky. I get to see your pictures from the swamp before probably a lot of people do, because I have access to your stuff on the flickers for my mission at Jackson Kayak. And man, it's some of the stuff that you have been bringing back is just, it's beautiful. I don't like alligators, and that if I ever come to the swamp with you, I'm going to sit on your lap and make you paddle me like a little baby.
Okay, Angie.
Oh, you have to hold me and Zach both. We're both scared to death. We don't do snakes either. You ever see? I mean, they always talk about Jesus walking on the water. You're going to see me and Zach run on the water if the snakes around anywhere close.
I don't do bad as long as I see them first. I don't like to be surprised.
No.
Down there, you'll hit, after 50, it's like, oh, there's another 12-footer. Oh, look at that one. Yeah, he's even bigger than the last 12-footer. Oh, this is a little longer than my boat. Oh, that's nice, And it's funny. They kind of wear you down, but still in the back of your mind, you're like, I'm not on the top of the food chain. I definitely need to keep my wits about me.
Can't get too comfortable.
I had actually told
the swiftest I've ever been paddling was over in Panama, over at Los Buzos, and I don't, it's funny, that's the least watched videos that I've got on my YouTube channel, and I loved those videos, but I honestly, I got smacked in the ear by a wave in the Pacific, and I found out that I was one of those guys, the guys at the party, like every time somebody walks up to a crowd, the crowd leaves. I'm that guy. And there'd be a group fishing, and I would look up, and like nobody's around me. I'm like, great, now I'm a topwater bait. I am just a fat whopper plopper out here. So I'd paddle back, I'd pedal back over to the group, and I'd fish here for a minute. I'd look up, and the group's gone. I'm like, I am that guy. Nobody wants to be.
You're smelling yourself. Is it me?
I was shaking like a dog trying to pass the peach pit out there. And and the first day I was so dehydrated, everything I had was cramped up. My legs were cramped, so I paddled, and then I paddled to my hands. I couldn't even get my hands off the paddle, and then I'd pedal till my legs wouldn't work anymore, and then I'd go back to the paddle. I'm like, I'm going to die out here, and I'm going to die alone.
Oh man!
Now, when we talk about the photography, you also have mentioned the YouTube channel, Feral One. Which came first? Was it the photography or the YouTube, or was one inspiring for the other?
No, definitely the photography. I shot, for the critters, and it's funny that because it was actually the photography that I started out. I was a canoeist for 20 years, and really enjoyed paddling a canoe. And it wasn't until I got into the first boat that I was in, the first kayak that I had was a Native Magic 14.5, which was an incredible boat. But when I started taking more pictures, I really wanted something that was along the line of the canoe, because it was just easier to put gear in. And I ended up jumping into a Commander 140. And when I got into that Commander 140, the guy that sold it to me, at our local shop before they closed down outside World Columbus was Henry Jackson. And Henry, or actually the gentleman that sold it has passed away now, but he introduced me to Henry Jackson, who was our Chattahoochee River Conservancy guy for a while here, and now he's over the Flint. But Henry actually asked me if I could photograph a shoal bass trip, and I'm like, yeah, I shoot jets, I shoot P-51s, I shoot critters, I shoot frogs and snakes. I don't say why I couldn't shoot a fishing trip. And it was that trip, believe it or not, that opened up the doors. I think my first published image ended up in Southern Culture on the Fly of that shoal bass trip and fishing with Henry on the Flint. And then from there, Henry made it to the Jackson team, and my photography of him and Ethan got Ethan on the team, and we were up at a summit in Jackson up there, and said, and the Illuminati boat came out, and when I shot a picture of the Illuminati boat, and James Macbeth was up there and said something about a photographer being hired to come shoot that boat. And Drew Gregory had already seen my pictures. And he said, why you got hired somebody? This dude's already got pictures of it. And James looked at me, says, can you show me what you got? And I showed him at that time, the Illuminati boat was blue. You know, a lot of people don't realize that boat came out in blue as well as the green Illuminati. And I showed him the pictures of it. And he's like, can you do that again? I said, shoot, yeah. He said, do it. So my pictures actually came out, and I don't know what happened to the hired guys' pictures, but my pictures were the actual first laid out pictures of that boat. And I wasn't even on the Jackson team. And somebody said, that dude needs to be on the team. And other people said, he is on the team. And I said, no, I'm not. And they said, well, now you are. It's like, I actually never got an official invite to the Jackson team, and I've been on it for over 10 years now.
I'm gonna fix that
That's
tomorrow.
awesome.
We're gonna send you a
awesome.
contract.
But yeah, we went to froze death because that picture took a 15-second exposure to work right. And we and Ethan didn't want to get in that cold water. And a lot of folks don't know the story, but I built a cradle of rocks in Rock Island in that water, in waist deep water in the middle of the night, and to hold
that boat still,
but looked like it was floating. So it was sitting still, but it looked like it was floating because I had to have at least 15 seconds to get a correct exposure. And then I stood behind it with a fishing rod in my hand. I told Ethan, I said, just boot me with a flashlight. Give me count of 10 to hit me one time. And that image turned out to be the picture for the Illuminati boat. It's kind of cool.
That's awesome. That's going the extra mile on that one. A lot of exposures are fun, but man, they take a lot of work sometimes.
Oh, man, yes, sir. But when stuff works out right, you know, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm happy we went through that work, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Sure.
That boat is one of the sought after gems, I guess is the way to put it. You still get a lot of people.
Has my Illuminati Coosa, and he will never let go of it. We call it Casper. He's got an OG Coosa, and he's hanging on to it.
It was a very neat boat. I personally didn't ever get to see one, but I've seen the pictures and seen a few on Facebook pop up for sale, and somebody's like, "Yeah, I got one." It's kind of the illumination boats, and then the stand-up paddleboards are kind of the other thing that's like the JK myths that people have to have.
Well, that was my first ever written piece that got published was about that the stand-up paddleboard. I killed a pig off of that stand-up paddleboard down in Mobile, and we were shooting the Kilroy promo down there in the owl shot, that shot that most people have seen, that owl cutting in front of the Kilroy with Brooks standing in the boat.
Yep.
We were shooting that. Well, Paul Leibowitz and I were actually fishing, and it hurt me so bad because he wasn't catching fish that, you know, everybody else would run on ahead catching fish. And I made it a mission of mine for Paul Leibowitz to catch a fish. And he was the editor of Kayak Fish magazine. And we talked about that pig for a little while, and he's like, "Man, I don't think that would fit the magazine." And it didn't bother me none because it's just a hunting story to me. And but later on, he sent me a message. He's like, "Dude," he said, write that up for me. Let me look at it. And that was actually my first published article in Kayak Fish Magazine, was about killing that pig off that stand-up paddleboard.
Oh You're
That's
giving
pretty
Zach
awesome.
ideas, and I'm going to come up with a missing paddleboard one of these days.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, I need that.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. I got to admit, shooting a bow off of it, killing fish, and then I had a lot of fun on the couple that I had. But you got to think, man, the boats are so stable and just wonderfully designed now. I mean, that's the reason I literally got rid of my stand-up paddleboards, because if I wanted to, I'll just take the seat out of the Liska. I've got I've got one of the best designed stand-up paddleboards right there, or the bite.
Yeah.
You've got a wonderful paddling hull. You can put a cooler in it to sit on if you want to, or stand up. So I felt like I didn't have a need in just having a stand-up paddleboard anymore, because the boats are so much, back when it was just the Cuda 14 and the Coosa, dude, I'm telling you, I've got the balance of a one-legged bar stool, and with a and so it took me a while to develop balance in our boats, and I learned that it was more so me than the hull, but having a good stable hull helps. They're stiff-legged, and 280 pounds of me want to pitch over the side. Well, it happened on a few occasions. Then you got people spider monkey like Jameson jumping up in the seat in a Cuda 14, turning around backwards fighting fish. I'm like, I hate you. I hate your guts.
Oh shoot!
Now I think the Liska was the first second Jackson that Zach had really ever been in, besides the big rig that we loaded with three of us on there. He was a big fan of the Liska right out of the gate.
Well, luckily for me, I got pretty decent balance, but I only get in a boat or in the kayak with you, a couple times a summer. So coming back in with trying to get my sea legs back underneath me, and usually with those boats, it's a breeze to jump back in and just stand up, take off.
And I don't know how well you can see him there, Chris, but if he ever falls in, he's taking me with him. He's going to drag us both down. He's a lot stronger than I am.
Pretty solid 218 pounds right now. So.
Just Thorness. Trying to be Thor. So we talked a little bit about your intro into Jackson Kayak, and one thing that I'd like to talk about, you kind of mentioned Panama a little bit, but you've been on several of our JK adventures to do some of the photo shoots.
Yes, sir.
What is the one trip that you've been on thus far that really stands out and says, I love these people?
Oh, dude, I'm from day one. Back when we launched the cruise, even that was our first true adventure. I mean, other than summits but honestly, the summits that I would love to see that come back, because that was team, that was the company. And when you got to see the people behind the company, that was what sold me on Jackson as a brand. I love the American made. That's awesome. But when you got to meet the people, I mean, even, from the wonderful customer service to the folks building the boats, and get to stay shoulder to shoulder with them there. And then, from Eric Jackson all the way to me, top to the bottom, of folks that loved these boats and then loved the people around them. And I couldn't say that, I would say that the Panama trip would probably be the one that changed me the most as far as an angler, because it pushed me way beyond comfort. But down in the Keys, when we got to do the cruise launch, we launched the cruise and we did some big tuna work, and that was cool because the Cuda 12 was on site. So I got to shoot all these different models, but the neat thing was Angie and Ethan were there. So we got to share it as a family and got to experience the whole thing. But I think, honestly, through every bit of this team, and like I said, I'm not a sports guy. I mean, I was the guy that was in the end of the court playing horse by himself and losing. I've never been picked first for any sports team I've ever been on. The only thing I ever get picked first for was tug of war. And so to me, to be a part of a team who was never one, even going through high school or in grade school. You know, I was the guy that, you know, base loaded 2 outs. Oh my God, it's Chris. You know, we're done. I was that guy. You know, that's been my whole life. So to be able to be a part of a team where I actually feel like I matter and I can be a true part of it, it means a lot to me, and it probably means more to me than most. And I know you guys have seen where I kind of get sideways if somebody leaves the team, because to me that's stepping out of a family. And I want this team to be a family. I want us to act like a family. You're not always going to agree with family, but you always love family. And from the start, Jackson has been a family to me. And I'm proud and honored to have spent the 10 years that I have with them. And I've told everybody, if I step away from Jackson, I'll step away from every team out there, because I'm done with all of them. And it'll be the day that I go out to pasture and just float down the river and have fun by myself. But up to that time, I will be Jackson proud.
There you go. I am the adopted child in this relationship. But Chris, I hate to tell you this.
Oh no.
It is 7:45.
Oh,
8:45.
8:45. It's 7:45 his time. It's okay.
well, actually, I live on the Alabama line, and we go by Eastern.
I can't win tonight. It is time for all the people out there in the land of Facebook and YouTube. It is 5 questions with Chris Funk. Let's hear them from the people. What do we got tonight?
I got one. I'll kick us off.
Kick us off.
Just for my own selfish curiosity, what camera setup are you running right now?
Oh, the big question.
Nikon D500 with the 18-300 lens for the most time, or 150 macro. But I've just started with the Sony Mark IV, and I can't remember. It's bridge camera, and that's what I've been shooting on the wildlife a lot, because I got tired of carrying that 200 to 500 around 4-pound lens.
Yeah.
So if I'm shooting critters, I'm usually shooting Sony, but the startup on it is so slow. I use the Nikon when I'm shooting. When somebody hooks a fish, I need to be able to get on quick. So I use the Nikon for all my fishing stuff.
Gotcha.
Question number 2 tonight, coming to you live right here on the Orion Podcast. What fishing purchase have you purchased that has made the wife the maddest?
The maddest? Yeah, right. Now, I spent all that money rebuilding that Ginu last year, and then that wasn't it. So I sold it. Well, I turned around and bought an aluminum boat and redid all it, and then I sold it. Right. So probably I don't think I got her as mad for purchasing as I did for selling when I thought this was going to be the latest and greatest thing.
She thought you were done and you were just getting started on another one.
Exactly. So I sold all that and bought a Torpedo. But she, at first, she was like, really? But then if you saw the video with her in it, she's zooming around going, this thing's like a toy. And I'm like, you can't have my Torpedo.
Hardest fighting fish so far?
That big black tip that I hooked over in Panama. The dude hooked the blue runner, he had a fresh bait and hooked the blue runner and threw it out. And he's like, paddle that way for 15 seconds. And I'm like, pedal that way. I said, there's a fish on it. He's like, no, pedal that way 15. I said, there's a fish on it. And what he didn't realize was as soon as he threw that blue runner out, that daggum shark grabbed it underneath that boat. And when I locked the daggum reel down, it took off and it shot whitewater out the side of that Coosa FD so fast that Will and everybody was behind me trying to catch up, and they could not catch up to me. And I fought that son of a gun until everything I had cramped and bowed up on me, and I got it up twice to the boat, and I finally turned to God and I'm like, I am not lipping this thing, and I don't want it in my lap. What do you want me to do? And he said, well, okay, I'll break it off for you. And he grabbed the rod. It took him another 10 minutes to get in. I said, see, I told you that son was still strong, Yeah, I got a really good picture of that. If you go to the Flickr, you can see that big shark laid out. That's the one I caught, and I done had him up the boat twice, but I wasn't going to bring him in with me.
I feel like we should have had the Flickr on standby so we could have shared screen and showed the pictures.
Just cycle through.
Cycle through.
Yeah. You ain't gonna give him the old Bill Dance smooch at the end of that one, huh?
Question number 4, Zach Bailiff. What do you got?
Whew. Where have you not been that you do want to go fish?
Ooh, man, that's a good one. I would definitely like to head up toward Canada sometime and chase them big dumb smallies up there. They talk about 250 fish days, and I just think that Canada would be an incredible destination. And of course, I love to fly fish, so I mean the pike on the fly would be kind of awesome. I've caught a few pickerel on the fly, but never pike. So probably up north would be my choice.
Question number 5. This is for everyone in the marketing team at Jackson Kayak, my colleagues, your colleagues. Who takes longer to get ready, Brooks or Jameson?
Wow. I haven't got to fish with Brooks near as much as Jameson. And I can tell you that Jameson will definitely drag a little bit. And it depends on, it honestly depends on the goal for the day. If the goal for the day is to shoot and video and everything, that is like pulling teeth, man, because you've got to rig everything and get everything right and get everything set up and get everything laid out, and you will waste a good portion of your day fooling with gear. So on that case, probably Jameson, I would think.
I hope he's still listening.
Brooksy was still in the swamp with me. He's one I have not got in the swamp yet, and it's coming. I'm going to have him down there in the swamp one day soon.
Well, there you have it. 5 randoms with Chris Funk. Jerry. Do you think that says that at the end?
You never let it play long enough to find out.
It sounds like they're saying Jerry.
Yeah, it does sound like that's what they're saying.
Yeah. I go with it. You guys should too. I'm the host. So, bucket list. Zach kind of brought up the fishing. I'm going to go in a different direction with the bucket list because I know you're a hunter as well. What kind of bucket list hunt do you have?
Oh man, for me, it's going to be more about meat. So I would probably say if I had a druther, it'd either be an elk or a buffalo one day, and that would be cool. And I would like to do it with old patch lock rifle. That was one thing that I miss not having the places that I've hunted in the past where I could hunt with my muzzle loaders. I loved a side lock. I've killed with the flintlock, but I loved the old side lock with a patch round ball, and doing that on an elk or a buff would be incredible.
Yeah, nice. Man, there's nothing cooler than seeing a big old bull bugle out there. I tell you, I've not done a buffalo, but I did talk to a buddy the other day who works in the Bass Pro Cabela space, and they do some hunts with some folks, and he had some photos of a woman who had killed one last year. I think he said carcass weight was over 1,500 pounds and yielded over 650 pounds of meat.
And I'd make 649 of it in jerky.
So that's the perfect segue into this. So the YouTube channel is not, when you go to Chris's YouTube channel, the Pharaoh one, it is not just fishing adventures, and I think that's important to mention. You offer a lot more than that. You're that's where the DIY expert, I
screw up a lot of stuff, if that's what you mean. I can teach people how to screw up stuff, or maybe I've screwed up enough that I can hopefully pass on what I've learned how not to do things.
You're a chef. You're a chef.
I love to cook. You can tell that by looking at me.
you've got the chef skills. There's how-tos. You've done things such as re-entry, which I feel like is important, and you've got some really good re-entry videos. You've even taken the Jackson kayaks out there and physically tested the weight when we had the bite and the Liska first come out and they were kind of there together. You actually took dumbbells, and loaded the boat.
We get so many questions about stuff like that.
We
folks
really do.
And honestly, that was the first screw up that I did as a kayaker. I bought a boat that was rated for 275 pounds. At the time, I was 275 pounds. It's rated for my weight. I'm going to go jump in it. Well, I jumped in it in January in blue jeans, and I froze my nether regions off. I jumped up with bluebells down below and ran that thing as fast as I could back to that box store with a receipt and said, "Take my money, get my money back."
Yeah.
And I jumped back and I stayed in a canoe for another year because of that experience. And this was before, people were around to I knew a couple people that pro staffed, but folks got to realize that the pro isn't because you're good at it necessarily. Sometimes you're just promotional. And that's all you are. And that's what a lot of us are. But if we can be helpful, and I want people in a Jackson kayak, yes. But the most thing I want is people to be safe and enjoy what they get into. Because so many folks, we watch it, man. They run to Walmart. There's a sale on kayaks. That ain't a kayak. That's a floating death trap. And then they get in that thing. They wonder why their butt and their back hurts. Like, man, if you would have just cared about yourself enough to buy a decent boat to start with, you wouldn't be selling it on Facebook Marketplace, because that's where you see them all. Folks just get tired of either being out there and they hurt or they're no fun to paddle. My boat paddles like a turd. Well, you bought the cheapest paddle you could find. What do you expect? And it takes people like us that have walked that path. And I've been in cheap boats. I've held cheap paddles. The reason I paddle what I paddle now is because after a long day of paddling with a cheap paddle, I grab somebody's Angler Pro and I'm like, you are freaking kidding me. I didn't know this was even possible that a paddle could feel this light. And that's why I do what I do. I try to be that person that helps out without beating folks up about it, because we've all walked that path, and every one of us is kind of like that one video. I've got a Paul, Timothy, and a Barnabas. We all need those people that are going to teach us, that are going to learn from, and that somebody that likes you, but they're not impressed by you, and that they're going to tell you, hey, you're screwing up. I love you, but you're screwing up. And we all need those type of people in our lives, and I want to be that to the folks that look at my channel. I hope it's helpful. It don't make no money, so I hope it's helpful.
Well, and I think it is. What is, I'm sure you get a lot of comments and stuff like that on there. What do you tell that young kid out there this is one question that we do ask to pretty much all of our guests. What's the question that you tell that young kid out there that's looking for insight, and maybe he's inspired by Chris Funk? He wants to be the next Chris Funk. He thinks he comes across your YouTube, your Instagram, or whatever, and goes, that guy's pretty cool.
Man, I first off, I'd say aim higher. But I try to be as genuine as possible. And my prayer is that the Chris Funk that you see on that channel is the same Chris Funk that you see stepping out of church. It's the same Chris Funk that you see stepping out of the power plant. It's the same Chris Funk that you see in a kayak. I want to be as genuine as possible. And I've tried to always do that. Jackson doesn't do everything right. And when I do a video, I'll say, look, there's some things I love and there's some things that I don't like a lot. And I want you to see that ahead of time. So for anybody that would want to emulate anything I do, the best thing you can do is, man, be as honest as you possibly can. I'm not going to review something and give something a good name if it's not a good product. And I may not blast you because you may love it. There's like some of those stand-up paddleboards, man. There's people that love stand-up paddleboard. I have grown beyond needing a stand-up paddleboard, but I'm not going to blast them because, yeah, they're fun. But I'll be honest, and I'll tell you why I don't need one. And I'll tell you what I don't necessarily like about whatever models we've got out. And I would hope that people see my channel and say that dude's true to his word and his character is above needing any accolades or rewards.
Absolutely. And I think you do a good job at it. For those people that are out there and wanting to go to Chris's YouTube channel, it is the Feral one. And with most of Jackson kayak boats, you can find After the Honeymoon. Especially with a lot of our original boats where he gets in there and he paddles them around for a while and then he gives you a second opinion of what he really thinks of it after some time. And
reviews, you've seen people, you get some folks that reviews, I love it, 5 stars, can't wait to try it out. Like, you really? Mm-hmm. You didn't even try it and you give it 5 stars? Or, it was a wrong color, 1 star. Like, really? Wrong color, come on, man. So to me, the After the Honeymoon was after you've been, stay married to her for a year and then come back and talk to me.
And that is a great series, and you get some honest insight from that. So if you guys are looking into any of the boats, that is a good one, and Chris gives you the highs and lows of what he thinks after spending some time with the ladies.
Right.
So yeah, that's always a good thing.
We'll be having our take 2 coming up before long. We got a big trip planned with it coming up in June, and we're going to be chasing a pile of fish. I'm looking for 50 species in my 50th month. The month I turned 50. We're chasing 50 species of fish, and Angie and I are going to be doing it in the take 2, and so we'll have our After the Honeymoon. I've tried my best to include her more so in later videos because the ladies, just when I talk about something, it's one thing, but it's like they trust her more. So if she gives her opinion on a ladies PFD or a ladies boat or a ladies paddle or something like that, it seems like it matters more to them. So I've tried to include her more so this year in videos and kind of branching out some of the stuff we do.
Well, because as men, we have a really hard time sometimes saying we was wrong. We're going to tough it out if we don't like that life jacket. So what are some of the trips planned? You're talking about the 50 fish. I think that's a killer thing that we should talk about. So we're going to go off the show notes here and let's get into that. Tell us where you're going.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually going to start here and work my way down because I've got shoals and spots and largemouth, and then of course all the different species of bluegill and catfish and stuff that I could catch here. And it's any legal method. So if I grab the bow, I can go out, shoot suckers, carp, whatever, and do that. Cast net and mullet, as long as it's a legal method and a different species. And one of the places that I've caught more species than anywhere is the Keys. And Angie said, you know what? It's your 50th birthday. Why don't we start there? So we're starting in the Keys and working our way back. And I'll be chasing everything that I possibly can. But yeah, I've got it started on my 40th birthday. I wanted to catch 40 species of fish in my 40th year. And I ended up catching 76 species of fish that year. But this year is 50, and I'm doing 50 in that month. So it's a big ticket item. But like I said, it doesn't have to be glorious. I mean, if it's a 3-finger bluegill, it counts, and that's all that matters is that it's a different species. And that's what I'll be chasing. It might be squid on a hook and shrimp on a hook, catching all the tropicals down there. But whatever it is, it's going to count. We're going to try to photo document the whole thing. But that's the goal for this year.
That'll be super cool, especially starting down there in the Keys. I think that'd be a really, really neat place to be.
And here
we've been there twice, and it is it's awesome. It's a little too peoply for me, but if you could tuck back in some spots, and the main thing, if you want to catch species, take you some squid, some shrimp, and get around a bridge piling because you are going to find them. And that's what our plan is, just to knock out as much as we can down there. And then work our way back north, and I'll swing through the swamp if I need to for a bowfin and a jack, and the black bullhead, flyers, and warmouth, and then hopefully cut over to Miss Jean and pick up red spotted sunfish, and a few different species over there, and some inshore. So I could speckled trout, white trout, reds, ladyfish, possibly Spanish blues. That's what I'm planning on doing. It's just literally going from spot to spot to spot till I can get my numbers up.
Yeah.
I know.
That'd be awesome.
It's just one of those strange things. Like,
no, that's actually actually a really cool goal.
Yeah.
You only turn 50 once. Make it big.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I need to get you up here, and we need to go trout fishing on the Cumberland.
Oh man, I'd say I love, because I like to fly fish too, but I don't care what I'm catching trout on, whether it's a panther martin or the long rod. I like it all. I will chase any critter that swims with any legal method.
We need to make that happen. We need to write this down and make that goal. We need to get Zach out there too. Zach needs to fill a rainbow trout.
You need to come right here and make my alligators.
And I'm good.
I'll bring that with me.
I've hunted quite a few, and I think I showed y'all that picture, that one, but the biggest one we ever killed, three of us, was 12.4, weighed 650 pounds, had a 44-inch girth around its tail.
Oh man!
Wow,
that was too much like work. We hooked him and fought him, and he actually got underneath the boat. And I call it a willy hook because of swamp people, but the same treble hook on a rope. I threw a willy hook across his back, and I poked that thing in him and got 2 good arm loads coming up. And when he took off, all you saw, we had it on video, the horizon was moving back and forth at about a 45-degree angle in that 19-foot skiff that I had. And I mean, we fought that thing for a good long while before I finally put a load of number 6s in his head. In Alabama, you have to use small game loads. So I actually, it's the very vast differences between Alabama and Georgia on your rules. So if you do that, you better have your I's dotted and your T's crossed. But in Alabama, you have to use a small game load. So I used 3-inch Magnum number 6s and laid him out and then didn't finish him off. End up, that's where my bloody tomahawk comes in, from having to finish off a few gators with that tomahawk.
So there were some videos floating around from one of the recent tournaments. I think it was down in where was they? Somewhere in Alabama.
Yeah, it's Eufaula. It's right here below.
Eufaula. Yes, Eufaula. And you seen the gators chasing Christine Fisher got chased by one, and then there was a couple other ones. I sent the video to Gene. And I said, "This is why I won't come fish with you."
When you see them tacking back and forth in front of an area, they are protecting it's usually a nest. And if a bull is being a little aggressive, he'll raise his nose up and the tip of his tail up out of the water, just saying, "I'm big, stay away." And honestly, I mean, I didn't see all of Miss Christine's video. I would imagine that gator gave her plenty of warning before it actually came at her. And that's one thing we all have to watch out for, is these critters, they'll let you know, and unfortunately as fishermen and women, we'll sneak off in an area and we're quiet. Well, when that gator jumps out, everybody says, "Oh, he tried to attack me." Well, he was trying to get away from you. You were just in his way. Now that one that Christine, that one charged, and I had that happen one time down there in the fog. I was actually bow hunting on the river and was paddling a 16-foot canoe. And when the gator saw me through the fog, it took off running straight toward me with, shooting whitewater off side of its face, planed out. And all I did, I turned the boat sideways and I grabbed my longbow. That was back when I was really dumb. And I grabbed my longbow and I held it for a second. I'm like, you know what? If it came down to it, at least I'd be the last fat redneck you ate. Once he saw the size of the boat, he chilled out. He just went under. He was done for. But yeah, that video, I'd like to know more about that story. But usually, I pulled off there at Hatchie Creek, just north of where she was at, and went into an area fishing, crappie fishing in the spring, and a gator was tacking back and forth, and you could tell she was guarding an area and did not want you there. So I just turned around and let her have it. Hey, that's fine. It's your river. I'll go find somewhere else to fish.
That's good knowledge. We probably need to I'd probably need a course if I was coming down to the swamp. Be holding my hand.
Yeah.
It's gonna be okay, Chad.
That's one of my most watched videos is a gator safety that I did down there in the swamp. And I hate watching that video now because it was about 70 pounds ago and I look like the great pumpkin Charlie Brown. But I shot that video for the National Wildlife Service down there, the refuge. And they actually shared it, and have shared it on their page on several occasions. And it just basically says that, that to watch out during breeding season, don't let your fish sit there and flop beside of the boat. That's why we carry nets to the swamp. I don't want a bowfin just sitting there. That's a dinner bell. And the gators are coming if you let one sit there flopping beside the boat. So there's a lot of stuff that we as people can do to protect ourselves. And the number one is, man, don't feed them. That is just, you are creating a problem and you are giving that gator a death sentence and maybe somebody else, but definitely that gator.
Yep, that's important. So Zach, stop feeding the bear in your backyard.
Yeah, well, no, he walked down the front sidewalk. He rang the doorbell on the way by, and then he walked on down the front sidewalk.
He did. So, Chris, all of your accomplishments that you've made, you've taken some great photos. You've been to some amazing places. You've got a YouTube channel that's still growing to this day with new subscribers and different things. Where do you see? We've talked about your 50. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
Ooh, I'm retired. Please God, let it be retired.
What's the big goal?
Honestly, I'm gonna keep doing what I do. I have a wonderfully blessed life right now, and between a bride that loves me fiercely and a great boy, I have been just beyond belief blessed. And I tell everybody my life revolves around 6 F's: my faith, my family, and fur, fins, and feathers, and photography. And honestly, if I can keep them 6 F's going, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing until it's time to kick dirt in my face, and I'll go home. I like what I do with the team. I told everybody on the team, James in particular, I said, look, when I'm no longer useful, let me know, and I'll just go out to pasture. Until that time, y'all are stuck with me. And I'm going to do the same thing on the YouTube. That I have fun. Probably nothing bothers me more than getting a dislike on a video, and I just want to know why. Why didn't you like it? What did I do wrong? I take those personal, and you shouldn't, but I do. And but I'd like to be where I can either be entertaining and helpful or both. And I'll probably just keep doing what I do.
Well, I think anybody that dislikes a video on YouTube just has something wrong with them.
They had a bad day anyway.
They've had a bad day.
The bikini video, I can understand the bikini video, but everything else, I don't think.
I feel like, YouTube's a place to be fun. Just like any other social media, you're expressing yourself in your own way, and everybody should hopefully respect that, all you listeners out there. Well, Chris, after an hour, James cuts off my internet access. So we're going to drop you. We're a low budget show. We're going to drop you down below. So hang out for a minute. Zach and I forgot. Most important thing. Tell the people where to find you. Thank the people you need to thank before we let you go.
Oh man, it's Chris Funk, the Feral One on YouTube. Chris Funk from Smith, Alabama on Facebook. If I can help any way, y'all holler at me. I'd be more than happy to help. And thanks. I got to admit, man, it's got to be my bride. Love her. She is the wind beneath my wings, and I'd be nowhere without the man upstairs. And to me, like I said, my faith, family, and it comes first beyond anything that I do. And I want to be true to him more than anything. So I'm thankful for the Creator, for all that he's blessed us with. I'm thankful for y'all as friends. I'm thankful for this team, and I'll keep doing what I do as long as I've got breath in this body.
Right.
There you go.
Well, that's been Chris Funk. Hang out for just a second. We'll be right back with you. Oh, I'm bigger than you are. There we go. All right, guys. Episode number 7 is in the book. 7. We made it 7 episodes and nobody has pulled the plug yet.
Yeah.
That's because
not fired yet.
Only our
We might
moms
get-
and Gene Wilson watch. So, but
shoot.
that was a good one tonight, and we appreciate all you guys for listening. Thanks to Jameson Redding for being our special improv guest. We appreciate him as well. We appreciate Chris and everything he does. Next podcast coming at you on May 17th. That'll be our next one. You get 3 of us this month. 3. And we may have a special one on the 31st. We're working out the details for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Zach may be here.
Yeah. In the same room.
In the same room. It might get interesting. I have to hide my button. Yeah. So the 17th, hit us back up. We'll be on Orion, Facebook, and then the Jackson Kayak YouTube. But anyway, thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends. Yeah.
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 No, it's been good. It's been real. Been fun. Been real fun.
It's been real fun. See you guys later. Bye-bye.